everyone, this is Katie from Maximum Edge, a CIC based in the UK, aimed at strengthening communities and the people within them. You can find us online at www.maximumedge.org.uk. We're also on YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Udemy and Facebook.
Okay, what's up everyone? This is Dave from Incremental Gains, recording on behalf of Maximum Edge CIC. Carrying on with our series for 11 to 16 year olds. Slightly different today. I wanted to maybe get the point of view, flip it on its head a little bit. Instead of the 11 to 16 year olds listening, and you can definitely get something from this episode, definitely, I guarantee it. But looking at parents listening to this, and parents listening to the point of view of a young adult and maybe the pressures, what they feel at school. Parents get a chance to listen to this, maybe it might open their eyes. Partly inspired this episode by a book that I read many years ago by Stephen R. Covey, probably one of the very first self-help books written. Multi-million seller, very popular book, very interesting book, and one of the chapters in there is titled Understand Before Being Understood. So understanding where someone else is coming from, someone else's point of view, someone else's frame of reference, looking at someone else's view of the world, trying to understand where someone else is coming from before being understood, before giving your point of view across, giving your view of the world. The title of the chapter is Understand Before Being Understood. So that's where this episode is inspired by. I interviewed a good friend of mine called TJ, 18, turning 19 years of age soon. And it was interesting to get his take on school life when he was at school. And the pressures that he felt at school. The social media platforms were obviously a hell of a lot different to what it was like when I was at school. So good to get his take on what it was like as a young adult growing up in school, especially in this social media age. So I think it's good for maybe a lot of parents to listen to as well. And they'll give them maybe a different perspective. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Just a quick note on the book that I mentioned before. Probably a good idea if I give you the title of the book as well. And it's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. 1989, published. So like I said, an old book, but definitely one worth visiting. Enjoy. So go on, what school did you go? Rainhill?
Rainhill High School.
What was that like, going to Rainhill?
It was alright. My high school times weren't the best, so, you know, being the typical fat kid and that.
So what point, talk about that then, what point did you start to get your growth spurt? Because you're about 6'2" now, anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, that was when I left school, though, so all through school. So literally probably like the last month of school when I had my growth spurt, but for the rest of it, though, it's just that should be a little kid.
Alright, so was you picked on?
I wasn't picked on necessarily, no, I just wasn't popular, really, more than anything.
You played sports and that, though, didn't you? Was you not in rugby team then, or?
I was in the rugby team, but it was more like just a number, just a space to fill. Wasn't really one of the best players, but...
I was the same, to be honest, though. I went Cowley, and I was in the rugby team at Cowley. The A team, by the way, just so you know.
Just to highlight the A team.
Oh, yeah, second row. But I was always dead skinny, and tall and skinny, and never really, was that popular, but even though I still played rugby, but I was never really accepted as a sporty person.
No. I think playing rugby for me, though, was more of a thing, to make friends and stuff like that, because obviously leaving primary school, when you go to high school... Friends! Leaving primary school, going to high school, it's like a different thing, isn't it? Like, you're meeting all new people. Because I went to primary school in Sutton Manor, and then Rainhill High School, there was only 3 people who came from my primary school, so it's sort of like a whole new place, really. So
that's quite far away from each other, aren't they?
Well, they're not far away. It's just going to Sutton Manor Primary School. Everybody from Sutton Manor went to Sutton Academy, so Sutton High School. So going to Rainhill, no, there's only 2 or 3 people, I think, from my primary school who went along with me to high school. So,
all right. So what when you went to high school and to Renal, that was it a sport that you used to start to maybe get more social and make more mates and that?
Well, more so, yeah, because otherwise I'd just be a fat nerd, basically, as they're called, so to say, wouldn't really be doing much. But because I played rugby, I sort of had links with people. I made friends with people who played for Fatterreef Rugby Club. So there was quite a lot of kids who went to Britton Hill who played rugby through Fatterreef, so I knew him from that. So I already started rugby before I joined high school.
Yeah.
But everyone from the rugby team, with it being in Blackbrook, went to Haydock High School, so there's no one from that team going there. But even just from the other teams, I found friends through that. So it was a good start, really, to get me into the high school life.
And what point did social media start to come into school? Because obviously, well, not obviously, but I know you don't know. I know I look like early 30s, late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 40 this year. So when I was at school, there was no social media. We were just getting emails when I was at school. So emails were just coming on board. Whereas now, your generation and the generation below you are more in tune with social media, Instagram, or your TikToking, or your Facebooking, your Twitters.
Mm-hmm.
So on FaceTime, all these now are platforms for young people to get on. At what point did that start becoming a thing for you, social media?
So iPhones and all these smartphones and stuff like that, I think they just first started coming out when I started high school. So I know for a fact before that, I don't know if you remember, but it was Blackberries, wasn't it? BBM, Blackberries,
yeah.
Yeah. So
the full keypad on the phone.
Yeah. So when I started year 7, everyone was using BBM, so BlackBerry Messenger, and that everyone had Blackberries. But then I think the iPhone 4 came out when I started year 7, so everyone started getting them. And then from there, everyone just started using the Snapchat and the Instagram and stuff like that. For me, I didn't really know what I was doing with it, because I started, like I said, it being in year 7, you get, I was lucky enough to be able to get a smartphone, or whatever you want to call it, an iPhone. And then when I got Instagram and stuff like that, I wasn't really knowing what I was doing, because it was a new thing to me. So you just post silly pictures and stuff like that, and you wouldn't have any followers. But there'd be some people, like people who are already more experienced and stuff like that, who've got older friends who had it and stuff, and they'd get more followers and stuff. So the main thing with Instagram and stuff like that when I was younger, it was all about getting the likes and the followers and stuff like that. And then for the people who didn't really get as many followers, they'd be the less popular people. So the more likes you get on your pictures and the more followers you get, and linked really to how many friends you'd have in school and stuff. So
there's a massive pressure on then young people to get those likes. How do they do it then? So they must wake up in the morning and think, right, I need to put content out on my social media to make sure I get the likes.
Yeah. So the way it works is really, well, when I was in school, you had it more so if you can have all the flashy clothes and stuff, which seems silly because when you're in school, it's not you who's paying for that, it's the parents.
Yeah.
So I think really the problem you've got is you've got, in like every aspect of life, you've got rich families and poor families, okay? And the rich families, they can buy the kids all these flashy clothes and stuff like that. And this really, because of social media and stuff, this gets those kids all the likes and all the followers because they've got all this expensive stuff on. So I think really the main problem you've got, like I said, is when the parents are buying the kids expensive stuff, and which is nice because they've got themselves to that position to be able to get that stuff for the kids. But then you've got the other kids who can't necessarily afford all that stuff. So they're just trying to keep up with it really, but they can't really do it.
But how much stuff can you actually buy that's... Because surely in school uniform, what can you buy? A pair of trainers?
Well, that's really been shut down. That started when I think it was just changed in my school when I left in year 11. So I think my school year was the last year to allow to wear their own trainers. So when I was in school, my mum would always just buy me pumps and stuff because she knows for a fact that I'd just ruin my shoes, which is what I always did.
Yeah.
But back then I wouldn't realise, and I'd see all these kids and they'd be wearing D-squared shoes, Hugo Boss shoes and stuff like that, and then I'd just think, oh, I need a nice pair of trainers for school, or 110s, all Nike shoes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you'd have the other kids who just have the normal school shoes, and you would get bullied really. Not bullied completely, but you'd just get the odd comment if you didn't have designer shoes on really.
Yeah, well, that was the same when we was at school as well, that in terms of like what coat you wore or...
Yeah, well, that was another thing as well, coats. So like with the trainers, that's been stopped because you're not really allowed to wear trainers anymore. They all have to wear school shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even still now, coats, and you might think it's daft, because, well, I knew it was daft anyway, and I wasn't really too bothered by it. But in school, because being Rain Hill as well, there's quite a lot of rich places around it, like more higher earning population, so you'd say, and the kids would be wearing Canada Gooses or Moncler coats and stuff like that, and you're talking
That's
like
crazy, that, isn't it?
you're talking like £800 coats, £600 coats, and when you've got a kid walking around in a £600 coat, then you're probably going to struggle to keep up, even as like an adult, really.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you're a kid as well and you don't realise properly the concept of money, you just think, oh, I want a Canada Goose, and then you've got kids telling the parents, oh, I want this coat for Christmas, I want this coat for Christmas, and the parents can't afford it, so what they're really supposed to do is try and deal with that, and then that's when you go on to like the people wearing fake stuff. Okay, so you get some parents who just can't afford an £800 coat, which is the same with probably most people.
Yeah.
And they start buying the fake stuff, and that's another thing where people will be getting skittered. So if you've got a kid walking around in a fake coat, they're just a perfect target there to get bullied. Really.
Yeah.
So, why have you got a fake coat? Oh, in my school we call it jag. Why have you got a jag coat on?
What is it, jag?
Jag, that was like just a term people had used for fake, because it was a scout. It's supposed to be a scout school towards the end of the field Prescott, so they'd all think they're.
I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but you're probably better just embracing the fact that you've not got a top mate coat rather than buying a blag one, aren't you?
Well, that's what I mean. I've spoken to my friend about it before. Like now, being where I'm at now, like even when I was in college, like all the way up until I left school, I'd always be really materialistic, because that's just what's been around me. Like that's what other kids are wearing and stuff like that.
But you're not now, though, are you? Having known you for a little bit now, you're not at all, are you?
That's what I mean. I've completely changed now. Like my mindset. I think it's because as soon as I left school, I started working, and when I started earning my own money,
and then you realise,
what you want to spend your money and what you don't want to. Don't get me wrong, when I got my first paycheck, I did start buying more expensive stuff just because it's not something that I've ever had. And this wasn't because my mum and dad didn't buy it for me or they couldn't afford it for me. It's because they thought it was better, and I agree with them, to not let me have that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
School. So don't get me wrong, I had designer stuff like jeans and stuff like that, but I'd never ever get bought something expensive to wear to school, which is right, really, because you don't need to. It's just a uniform, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when I first started working, like I say, you realise as well, because you get your own uniform to go to work, and when you're in school, you feel like you can't stand a uniform, like you just don't want to wear it. But then you realise at the end of the day, it's just a uniform. Like I wear £5 Clark shoes for when I went to Asda, and then I was not bothered at all. No one there was bothered. But if it was to wear £5 Clark shoes when I was in school, then it was like the worst day ever. I'd hide a pair of trainers in my bag to wear to school and stuff, and it was just like.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with earning your money and being able to treat yourself and buy yourself some stuff, but I know, knowing you now for a little bit, that it's not like if you buy something, it's got to be like the top names.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
And especially when you get to my age, everything's just for function. You buy something that's comfy, or it might look all right, but the main idea behind it is that like it's comfy. You get plenty of wears out of it, and it does the job or whatever. Yeah.
Well, obviously, when you're in school, so linking back to Instagram and stuff like that, all you see all the time, like all the celebrities and stuff, they wear all expensive stuff. So that straight away makes you think, well, it's cool to have that expensive stuff, so you want to try and keep up with it. So I think that's why the kids are also putting pressure on the parents. So I understand if there's any parents who've got kids in school, they've probably heard it before, like saying, oh, Mum, I want this, or I want that, or I want this, and it's something which is really quite expensive and you just can't justify paying for it. But there's some parents who realise as well that can actually be overpowered by the kids, because you get some kids who can be aggressive to the parents, and sometimes you could say spoiled. But
it's a difficult one, that though, isn't it? Because your kids are getting, so your young adults and that in school are getting picked on or bullied because they've not got the latest gear.
Yeah.
So then, as a parent, do you give in and maybe spend over the odds on a jacket or a decent pair of trainers for your child, knowing that might stop the bullying, but then it's a vicious circle in it. Then your kid just wants something the next time is more expensive or better.
Yeah. And the other thing you don't realise as a kid as well is you're going to grow out of stuff. So, for example, like I said, I was always quite small and chubby through school, and as soon as I left school, I grew out of all my clothes anyway. So even if my parents did buy me all that expensive stuff, it'd be no use to me now because I just grew straight out of it. And as a kid, that is definitely something which you don't realise, like your shoes and stuff. So looking at that now, like I just remember all these kids who've had all these expensive coats and the expensive shoes, and I just think that must have been so much money wasted for just 1 year in school. Because back when it comes to the end of the year, then it's pointless having anyway, isn't it?
No. And again, it's easy in hindsight, but to ask your parents to provide the best kind of clothing they can afford, so you don't get bullied, so you're seen as a popular kid, so you're seen as one of the cool people in school while you're in school. And again, it's easy for us to say now in hindsight, now that we've left, but it doesn't actually matter, does it? Once you leave school, you're never going to see them people again in your life, but for that period of time in school,
it's the most important thing.
It's the most important thing to you, innit? Definitely. Yeah.
And it even goes down to like phones as well. So like I was saying, everyone getting the new phones. When Christmas had come, so with Snapchat and stuff, Snapchat is basically, for anyone who doesn't know, you're taking pictures and then you write a message and stuff like that. But it became quite a thing. Was
that the main platform for you when you was at school, Snapchat?
Yeah. So I think Snapchat was the main platform for kids to talk to each other and stuff. And it sounds daft, you think, well, why not just send a message? But I'm even still on it now. Like, I never ever, and you'll know as well, because I always ignore your messages. But because that's all that I've ever been on, I only ever look at Snapchat, Instagram, or Facebook. And I'm only just recently looking at WhatsApp, because I've never used that. So
it has been noted that, you do not ever...
Yeah, it has been noticed, like... But on that, you'd get kids taking pictures of the stuff, like I said. So Christmas was a thing I'd always remember. So you'd always get people taking pictures of stuff which they got for Christmas. And I've been luckily one of the people who's been well off and stuff like that, because my parents have done well and they can afford nice things for me. So I had no problems with that. But there'd be other kids, and I just think to myself, like, how they must have felt being the mindset which they had when they'd see kids taking pictures of the new phone, the watch, coats, clothes. And you're talking, I've seen some kids who've got easy well over worth £2,000 worth of stuff for Christmas. And then you get some families who can only afford, actually knew a lad when I was in school, and his parents had just given 50 quid, and that's all he get for Christmas. Yeah. But to him, he was quite a person who embraced it quite early, really. Like, he wasn't really too bothered by it. Like, he'd just be happy, and if anyone said anything to him, he'd just say, I'm not bothered, you know what I mean? So he'd come in wearing his scruffed up shoes and stuff and his cheap bag, and whenever anyone would try and skit him for it, he'd just say, well, what's your problem? Like, I can't help it. Like, I'm not bothered. And looking back then, like, I used to say to my mates and stuff, I'd be like, how does he put up with that? Like, how can he deal with that? And then now,
without, like, you don't have to name names or anything, but you know what he's doing at the moment?
Well, he was the same as me. He started working, and now he's working full time. He's a builder. He's doing building, but he went to college and an apprenticeship and stuff like that. Yeah. And now he's earning a good wage.
Yeah,
and compared to
probably assuming, I don't know the person who you're on about in that, but I assume that he's got his head screwed on. He knows the value of money.
Yeah,
if he has got his own kids, he's going to be passing that knowledge down to them.
Yeah,
so good on him. Yeah,
well, that's what I mean. Like, I always speak to a friend about it, who I still speak to from school, and we just always talk about, like, how you look at the people now who was the popular kids in school and what they're doing, and then you look at the kids who weren't as popular and weren't wearing the expensive stuff, and you can see how they're progressing better. So, for example, that lad I was talking about then, as soon as he finished school, he started an apprenticeship, and now he's well on his way to being quite a high up in the building trade, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not too sure. But then these kids who were just getting the stuff off the parents are on Snapchat and Instagram putting, can't find a job anywhere, can't do anything, doing whatever.
Yeah, feeling entitled, like
should
be getting something handed to them on a plate rather than putting the time in and having to work for something.
There's some of them even still now who are still now, and they've not had jobs since leaving school. So that's talking 3 years, nearly coming up to 4 years since I've left school, and they've not worked a day in their life.
Yeah. Again, I think it's important to go over the point that we said before, where I know when you're in it, it's the most important time of your life, school. When you're in it, you're involved. You can't see outside that school environment and the little cliques that go on inside it and the power struggles for being popular and all that. But it's such a small part of your life. Once you leave, none of that really applies, does it?
Nothing. Like, it's literally, like, I remember the day I left school. So, the day I left school, there was obviously taking pictures and all that, signing the shirt and everything, what you do. But as soon as I walked out them gates after that day, the next time I seen anyone from school, except, well, there's one person I'm still friends with from school. The next time I seen anyone, or even spoke to anyone, I probably messaged people for the first week or so, leading into summer. But after that, the next time I seen them was results day, and I've not seen anyone from school since.
Yeah.
So all those friend groups and stuff like that, which you have when you're in school, and all the cliques and all the stuff, it just all goes. Unless you go to college with them, obviously. There's some people who stick and go to college with each other, but you all go your different way. So there's a few people who went to college where I went, but even in college, I didn't speak to them either. I met new friends from different schools. You meet all new people. Yeah. But when you're in school, you think everything's so important, and you think it's all going to matter. But as soon as you're gone, then that's it.
I know, you get a whole set of new problems.
Yeah.
So going back to kind of the school environment, back when I was at school, there was obviously pressures to start drinking, start to find alcohol, whatever age that may be. Certainly secondary school, early years of secondary school, you start finding alcohol, maybe a bit of peer pressure to looking to get alcohol, whether you get someone to go in for you or some of the people who are old enough to actually, or look old enough to go and buy it. And you start knocking about on parks. Is that the same pressures on young people nowadays, or is it different?
Well, definitely. When I was in school, to be honest with you, it was quite a phantom year, really. So we'd always say, like, our year was the most boring out of the whole school. So everyone in our year, there'd be no parties, no drinking or anything like that, because I don't know what was different, but definitely looking at the other years in school, that was definitely going on. I think even more so in the years below, and even now still, just looking, I might have not realised when I was in school, but looking now, there's a lot of younger people who are starting to drink and that, like even as young as year 7 and year 8. But when I was in school, it wasn't, well, my year, there wasn't really much of that going on, like I say. But I think the pressures comes from more so what I noticed, there was a few people smoking and stuff, but I think it's when they've got older friends. So when I started year 7, anyone else in any other year, like looking up, would be obviously year 8, year 9, year 10, year 11. They'd be like complete strangers to me. But then you get some people who've got older brothers and older sisters and stuff, and then they start realising what goes on in the higher years from learning from the siblings. So if you've got an older brother in year 11 and you've just started year 7, let's say he's quite a...
How old will you be in year 11?
Year 11, you're 15, 10 to 16. So you've got, and when you're in year 7, you're 10 going to 11.
Yeah.
So if you've got an older brother who's, let's say, a naughty kid and he doesn't do well in school and he's smoking and drinking and stuff like that, I think that's quite a lot of learned behaviour. So if you see that there's your older brother smoking,
you're going to do it as well.
You think, oh yeah, go on, I'll start smoking. And then you start getting cigs off your older brother, and they start getting passed around the younger people. And then you get some people who turn into that, so they think, oh, go on, then he's doing that, that's cool, let's do that. So once again on Snapchat, you get people taking pictures of like their alcohol and the cigs and stuff like that, and they all start thinking, oh yeah, that's cool, let's start doing that.
I was going to say, does that end up being more like a one-upmanship as well? So you've got people who are wearing all the good gear, expensive gear, so that gets put on your social media platform, and then you're going out, maybe having a few, whatever you drink when you're that age, over the park, that gets put on your Snapchat, so then that's even more notoriety to it, so people think you're cool. That adds more peer pressure, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I think you'd realise, like, when you're talking about cliques and stuff like that, like you said, you'd have your, well, from me noticing in school, you had like your rich kids, so your kids who'd be wearing all their expensive clothes and stuff. Then you'd have like your poorer kids, but the parents would still bite into the pressures of buying them expensive stuff, so they still have the expensive stuff, but they can't, they're sort of like pretending. Yeah. They'd have this expensive stuff and then they'd be going home to not really very much, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I think these younger people, or the group who aren't the poorer people, so to say, they'd start the drinking and the smoking to look cooler. So if they live in a family where they can't afford to buy expensive stuff, they probably nick wine or nick alcohol or nick the cigs off the mum and stuff like that. And they'd use that as a way to
get a bit popular,
get a bit more popular, because it's sort of like they all want something a bit different to give them a bit of an edge on top of each other.
Yeah.
And you'd have people who'd be smoking, and you can just tell they don't like it. Like it was probably as well more so the girls smoking and drinking more, I think.
Yeah.
And I just think like it was like you say, it's a popularity thing, trying to be different than everyone else. So,
you had all like the sporty people who were in the rugby teams, the football teams, the athletics, and then you had the more academic people. So the people who are going on like the maths clubs, the chess clubs, people who were good musically. So you had that kind of group who were more academically better than other people. They stuck together, but it was always for the want of a better term, the in-betweeners who always struggled fitting in because they maybe weren't the most popular in terms of sport. They weren't that good academically, so they were the ones who maybe might give into that peer pressure to go and drink or start smoking just to have that one niche that they could identify with, that gang that they could think, I'm part of that gang, to find that identity of smoking, drinking, because they didn't fit into, I'm generalising, but either the sporty bit or the academic bit.
So I'd as you say, like an in-between. I think I'd like to class myself as an in-betweener, really, because I didn't go down the smoking path or anything like that, and I didn't walk around wearing the expensive stuff. So I think one thing which helped me a lot when I was in school, I'm not trying to say I'm some sort of comedian, but, well, it didn't help me at all, really, but I was sort of like trying to be a class clown, so try and be the funny person sort of thing. Yeah. So that's why I didn't really do the best in school, and I think that's probably leading into college still, probably why I ended up getting kicked out of college, because I was class clown.
What was that masking then? What was the comedy act trying to mask? So
it was just trying to mask being, like you say, you want to be different, don't you? You want to be noticed. You want to be sort of like not just that normal person who just goes on with the school life sort of thing. Like, you want to be different.
So your default was to try and be like popular through being funny and being
So when I was in classes and stuff like that, I'd get sent out and stuff. I'd never be like rude or naughty, so to say. I'd just try and be funny.
Bit disruptive through being like the class.
Disruptive's the perfect word for it. Yeah. So my main problem was being disruptive, and it wasn't in a rude way or in a, can't really think of the word I'm trying to say. It wasn't like I was being, I don't know, like abusive or where you get some kids.
A bit mischievous, like
mischievous. So you'd get some kids who'd like be swearing at teachers and throwing pens at students, and bullying students in class, or just really being rude. But I'd just be like making the odd joke or trying to just get attention. Really, it was an attention seeker, basically. Yeah. And I think that was probably.
I can see that in your attention seeking.
That's it worked for me in terms of getting in the popularity loop and not getting bullied, but it didn't work in terms of getting good grades and getting their down, because that's one thing I could never do.
Yeah.
And I think trying to hide away from that was by being funny, like I said.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good. Go on, sorry.
No, go on.
So you mentioned there about a way of maybe doing it so you wasn't bullied and that. We go back to bullying then, because again, my reference when I was at school, there was no social media, so people who did get picked on, I know there's various degrees of bullying, and it can lead to like really bad consequences. So we'll just sort of generalise when we talk about bullying, people being picked on, name called, maybe a bit violence here and there. When I was at school, because there was no social media, once you finished school, say you was being picked on or bullied, once you left school and were at home, unless you seen them people out and about who bullied you, the bullying didn't really carry on.
Yeah.
Now we know, because of social media, people can be bullied online constantly. Other people can be involved. A lot of it's anonymous, so people don't know who's doing it. You can be bullied by people who are in another school just because they've got access to your social media platform. What's your experience, not necessarily from yourself, but what you saw in school regarding bullying and all that kind of thing?
So when I was in school, it was more so, like I say, once again, Snapchat was the main platform for everyone. So what would happen is on Snapchat, you can have group chats. So as you would with your work or stuff like that, you get group chats. And if someone puts something on Instagram, like let's say a picture, and they had a ripped coat on or something, then you get people screenshotting that and then sending it.
Is that a make, or do you mean actual ripped?
Just ripped, no, just a ripped coat. No, it's not a make. It's just in general a hole in a coat. So let's say someone had a ripped coat on, or it wasn't a nice picture, or so someone didn't think it was.
Yeah.
That could get screenshotted, and then it'd get passed into a group chat, and then everyone on the group chat would be slagging it off, and then it'd all be going here, there, and everywhere. And another thing, it wasn't in the younger years because it's just something which never happens, but let's say like someone's messaging a girl and they send a nude picture, which was happening year 9 all the way to year 11 really. I would never do that.
Of course
not. But there was girls, so let's say the girls took a picture of the boobs and sent it to a lad. The lad would screenshot that, and then it could get passed all the way around school through various group chats. And then imagine you're a 14-year-old girl or a 14-year-old lad who's took a picture thinking you know what you're doing of what other people aren't supposed to see, and then you see that on everyone's Snapchat story, or you know what I mean? You're going to be struggling from it really, aren't you?
I think that laws have brought in for that now, aren't they, as well? Obviously they wouldn't have been when you were the age, but I think laws have brought in now, aren't they, to where you can get done for that.
I'm not sure, to be honest, but I imagine that's, if there is a law, then that's one which needs.
There is now, like, I don't know how far the law's got back, but there is law now been brought in that if you do, I don't know what the term is, but if you do pass on a private picture or whatever the word would be, if you pass on a picture of that, something like that, then you can be done for it. Like, yeah. You ever seen the episode? Did you watch Black Mirror?
No, I don't watch Black Mirror. No.
There's an episode on Black Mirror. I can't remember what series it is, but you know what it is, though. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So it's about like they go into the future and they talk about issues that might happen in the future, but done like as a drama, as a series. And there's one episode where basically your whole purpose in life is to get likes. So everything you do is to get likes and if you get more likes, you get more tokens, which means you can buy more things.
Yeah.
And everyone is walking around miserable as sin. But what they portray on their social media is similar to what we're seeing now, where everyone's perfect, happy families. Yeah. Everyone's loving life, dead successful, and that's the image that they want to portray on social media. But in reality, everyone's dead sad and miserable because they've got no friends, they're not talking. But then they'll post on this particular episode, they post a picture of a cup of coffee with a little bite out of a biscuit, dead sunny day, and everything is just to gain popularity or get more likes. And it's almost like art imitating life, because that's the way it's becoming, isn't it?
Yeah, especially like you said, in school as well, when you've literally your only thing you're doing is going to school, like you say, your popularity and your likes and stuff like that. That is life, like to you at that moment in time. Your whole purpose of life is to be popular in school.
I know.
And stuff. So
I've always asked myself the question what I would do, and I've not really got an answer for it. But what would I do if the child was being bullied at school, but it was also online as well, and they were saying like they don't want to go to school, but then the platform that they're using to communicate with the mates is social media. But they're also getting bullied on that. I don't know what the answer is, but is it to take away their iPad, the laptop, or
me personally, like I've thought about that quite a lot as well, to be honest. Like thinking, when would I? Because you see kids now in primary school who've got phones and stuff, and I think they're far too young to have a phone. So I can understand kids having the phones for when they're going out, so you can keep an eye on
safety,
and that's what I mean. So that's the problem you've got now. You've got phones being portrayed and advertised as this great way that you can keep in touch with all your family and stuff like that, however young they be. So you might have the problem where you think, well, I can't take the phone off them, because if you've not got the phone, then I can't keep in touch with them yourself. But I just think, I think unless your kids in high school, I don't think they need a phone. So I think kids in
11 plus.
Yeah, so when they start high school, I think they need a phone. But it's like you say, it's the vicious circle again. So what my thought process would be, I'd think, well, I'd just give my kid a phone, a burner phone, let's say, as they call them.
A burner
phone. I've been watching too much Top Boy, haven't I? A burner phone where all they can do is bring a message. So there's no social media, there's no stuff like that. But then you've got the problem of, well, if your kid's going to school with that phone, they're going to get bullied for only having that phone.
Yeah.
So it's like you say, it's a vicious circle. You don't know what you're supposed to do with it. But I think if you've got a kid who's getting bullied and they've got a smartphone or they've got Snapchat, Instagram, stuff like that, I don't think they need it, to be honest with you. I think it can. There's other ways to keep in touch with your friends. You can see them when you go to school. Like you said, when you was in school, you didn't need it, and they might get kids in school saying to them, "Why have you not got Snapchat? Why have you not got blah blah blah?" But I think they'd get less hassle from that than from getting hassled on social media. So you might get some kids who've got social media and they don't get bullied on it, or they're not. So then that's fair enough. But if you've got a kid whose mental health's really, really struggling from it, from the abuse they're getting, then I think there's no problem in just deleting it.
Just switching it off, yeah.
Yeah. So one thing which my dad did when I had it, you have an Apple ID, don't you, where you download apps and stuff like that. He had control of that. So if there wasn't an app on my phone, if I wanted that app, I'd have to ask him for it.
Yeah.
And then at the time, like I said, to me it seemed like the worst thing ever, and I'd hate him for it because I think, well, why can't I just have my own? Why can't I just have my own? And looking back now, I commend him for it. So to say, like, I'm really happy he did that because I couldn't just have whatever I wanted.
Yeah. So he's giving you a bit of freedom, but yeah, he's the one who's going to be governing what app you can have.
Yeah, and that was all the way through until I left school. So until it was like that from year 7 till year 11. Yeah. And it was. I know it's not social media, but it's another way people communicate and stuff like that. But Xbox, so gaming things, and I bet there's people who've got kids who sit on Xbox or PlayStation until 4 o'clock in the morning. That's just a complete no-no for me, I think, because it's just the way that affects you going to school. So I had friends in school who was having all these gaming stuff and stuff like that, and they'd be coming in school the next day after having 2 hours sleep from being online. So I had a PlayStation, but my dad had never let me have online on it. So it'd just be playing a game, but not going online where you can speak to other people and stuff like that. But,
see, that's something I never even thought about because technology wasn't that advanced.
No,
we were like doing games and stuff, but yeah, you forget that even though like a young person might be isolated up in the room, you don't think they'd come into that much harm really. They could be like communicating with anybody and everyone, couldn't they?
Yeah, definitely. So on Xbox and stuff, but you could class it as another social media because it is a way socialise. But you've got people on it who are like 30 and 40 and however old they are. So if you've got an 8-year-old son who's on Xbox, or let's say 11 because it's in high school, they could be speaking to older people on that, and then it can link to that. So you could be on Xbox with someone, and then they'll go, "Oh, what's your Snapchat?" And then, do you know what I mean? So then you've got a 30-year-old fella adding an 11-year-old on Snapchat. I think that's another thing which people should really be cautious of, like playing that, because I don't see the benefit really of even letting him game, because I just think letting him go and sit on Xbox for a bit, or for example, I think a lot of parents do it now, letting him sit on the phone. It's an easy way out. So if you've got a kid who's mithering you, and they constantly want attention, you can just buy them an Xbox or buy them a phone.
Yeah, and that's them occupied for a little bit, innit?
Yeah, definitely. So I never really was that interested in gaming and stuff because I wasn't allowed to really. And I just feel better for it because when I was in school, like I said, I had mates who'd have Xboxes and we'd all sit on it and we'd all speak to each other on the night. And once again, I hated my dad for it at the time because I think, well, all my mates are on Xbox, or why can't I just go on Xbox with him? And then now looking back, I think, well, I'm glad because I'd go out on my bike. So there's a lot of times when I'd message my mates and stuff and I'd say, "Oh, you're coming out?" And they'd be like, "No, I'm sitting on Xbox," and they'd stay up until 5 o'clock in the morning and be going to school the next morning. It's just
But I think that's an example of a way of parenting where he's looking after your best interests for the future and not just in the short term, just giving you something that'll occupy you for a little bit.
Yeah.
He's actually like not just trying to be your friend, he's actually being a parent and saying like, I know how this could end up, so you're not gonna have it.
Yeah.
Or I'll control how much you could have it.
Yeah.
And eventually, you might not think it, but you'll thank me for it in the long run.
Yeah. So, like you said, it's a hard thing for a parent to do. So, as a parent, you might look at that and think, well, I'm going to have to just get him because he's going to hate me if I don't. So, it's back to the clothes and stuff like that and the best clothes.
Yeah.
You think, unless I buy them that, they're not going to like me or love me as a parent. But I reckon most kids, maybe 9 out of 10 kids, when they got older, would realise what you've done and appreciate what you've done for them.
Yeah.
So it might be a hard thing at the time saying no, because saying no for some parents is really hard, as it shows.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in the long term, it definitely is a better thing to do to just say no.
Yeah. I think it's important to clarify again, even when we was on about before about being in school and that. At the time, it's such an important part of your life. And you think the whole world revolves around you and your school life and the problems that you have with it. And at the time, yeah, they are problems to what you're experiencing, so they are important to you. But in a few years' time, none of it's going to matter. And the lessons that you've learned, and you might hate your parents for a little bit because they can't let you have the most up-to-date model of iPhone, but in the long run, they're doing it for a reason, and you'll understand in a few years' time what that reason was.
Yeah, like there's some kids, and these are the kids who get the best grades in school, but a lot of kids, and I was the same, you forget the whole reason why you're going to school. And the whole reason you're going to school is to do your GCSEs and get the grades to move on in life.
Build a foundation to move from there as you get older. Yeah.
And then you forget about that. Well, most kids forget about that, and they think the whole reason you go to school is to impress and is to be popular and stuff. And it's quite funny, really, how you forget the whole reason why you're there.
Yeah.
But when you've got that in your head, that's the reason you're there. I feel like you just want to do anything to try and be a popular person, like you said. So
definitely.
I think it's probably a good thing if you can remind your kids actually why they're at school, and that's not to be the most popular or to get loads of likes on Instagram. The reason you're at school at the end of the day is so you can learn. And that's why you get kids who get kicked out of school, like ours yourself, get kicked out of college. You forget why you're there. Really,
yeah.
So
yeah.
It'd be good to remind your kids of that.
It's a good point. Yeah, and I think that's a good way to end it, actually. So we know and we understand that school is hard, school is tough. The problems that young people experience nowadays, especially with social media, what we're essentially saying is it is a difficult time. School life is difficult for parents and for kids. You've got all the problems that I experienced when I was younger at school, but they're all compounded because of social media and all the different platforms that you can use now. So it's and with the celebrity status and culture as well, like all these celebs doing stuff that people want to copy and emulate. What we're saying is it is really difficult, but the reasons why you're there, and in a few years, although it doesn't seem like it, it's not going to really matter that much what happened at school. Your
mindset completely changes once you leave school. Well, it did for me, and I'd like to think it would for most people, but as soon as you left school, you realise that all that pain you've put on yourself, all that pressure you've put on yourself to try and impress people, it all just goes, and then you look back and you think, well, I wish I actually just did the whole reason why I was there, which was to learn.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of things I wish I did different in school looking back now, but you don't realise that until you leave. So
hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's why it can be so frustrating for parents as well, like you say, because as a parent, you've already been through that school life and you know what they're going through, but you just can't get it into their head.
Yeah, and I think I can't speak as a parent because
no offense, Dave.
no offense, TJ. I can't speak as a parent, but if I was sort of speaking to a young person who asked for advice or whatever, then I can think of loads of things that I would have done differently in school because I can see the potential that you could get out of school or college. So it's obviously frustrating for parents. You can see the child maybe not fulfilling the potential and not doing the best in school because they know once it's gone that period of time, it's gone on it.
Yeah, they're not going to get it back.
Yeah. And although it does seem difficult when you're in it and you live in it on a day-to-day basis, as a child or as a young adult, I think it's important to try and... That's why I've got you on today. You're only a few years out of sort of college and that, aren't you?
Yeah.
So just to give that perspective back of, like, utilise this time wisely.
Yeah.
Or try not to give into this box of being popular.
Yeah.
It's nice to be popular, yeah, but once you leave school, that doesn't do you any good whatsoever.
No, definitely not. Just need to try and not drag yourself into the pressures of society. Just do your own thing. just get your head down in school. Once you're finished, it's gone. So the best thing to do when you go to school is just get your work done and just not try and impress other people, because it didn't really work for me. So
nice one, Tage. Thank you for that.
It's okay.
Brilliant. And we'll speak soon.
See you later.